Hey everyone. Alright, we are back for another portfolio project review, and this one is of another portfolio. So, this is by Gerard. Reached out on Twitter about this. Let's just dive right into it. So, immediately, okay, so I talk about usually jumping into your portfolio projects, showcasing what you can do and deliver, and usually diving into these portfolio projects because it dives into the value that you can bring someone, and it kind of solidifies our confidence that you can bring that value because you've built it, you've solved this problem already. And jumping into this right now, I'm not sure what value you can bring. And the reason for that is, like, it looks like you're creating mock-ups. Are these mock-ups? And then this looks like development work. I don't... Okay, so Toyota site. I see site. That's probably a website that you built. Tax track? So I think the confusing part here is I think you've done some UI and UX work focused on the user experience and potentially creating mockups and prototypes, and you've also done development work. So it's kind of a hybrid portfolio. And it's kind of weird showcasing the value that you can bring to a company. Well, there are kind of hybrid positions that are going to have you do UX design work and UI work, especially at some startups. I think it's confusing what you really do, and I don't think you're providing enough context. So I think there are two choices here. I think you could be very clear that this is UX UI work. This is talking about, like, kind of just maybe a UX flow that you designed, or an actual mock-up or prototype you designed, and being able to break up those two portfolios, because right now I just see two sections that kind of blend into the same thing. It just looks like here's some work, here's some more work to look at, here's some more work, here's some more work. I think it's hard to distinguish that. So having two separate portfolios, one that shows UX work and one that shows development work, I think that's an option that probably is kind of the right way with this. Another option, if you are going to combine these, I think knowing the type of position that you are mainly going to apply to, that you're really pushing for, to me, if you were to combine these two, it looks like you're more interested in UX work because, you're putting this at the top of your page. I'm assuming this is going to be the most relevant and most important thing you want to shove into their faces as fast as possible. Yet, I see more projects that look like development projects. So I think your experience speaks to development. So these are kind of just some of the initial impressions I'm getting from this, and I think I'm very confused right now. I think I'm confused, and I think other people are going to be confused as well. So I don't necessarily think it's a good idea to combine your portfolio projects if they are separated from design and development work, because I think traditionally those are separate at a lot of positions with different companies, and even kind of a hybrid role will still be able to see UX work, will still be able to see development work, and you don't really, you can distinguish those on your portfolio and still be considered for positions like that. So I think right now I'm confused. I think you need to separate out your UX work. I think you need to separate out your development work from each other. Now, how you go about doing that, I'm going to leave that up to you. But I think these are just some initial impressions I'm getting with this. And I think with UX and mock-up work, I think what's relevant, React Car Site app, but it says Toyota mock-up. I think this is a development project. Why is it called a mock-up? Mock-up. What the heck do you mean by mock-up? Real estate. So masseuse You don't even have like under mockup like Toyota mockup. What the heck is going on here? I'm being very honest about what I'm thinking right now, and I'm hoping this is helpful. I'm very confused at what you do. I am very confused at what you do. I have no idea. I'm going to assume you do development work. I'm going to assume you, for some reason, chose the word mockup and you don't actually do prototypes. Typically a mockup, like when I see this, I'm going to see design UX work. I'm going to think design and UX work. I honestly just don't know. What it might... So, okay, here's kind of what I'm solidifying right now, and maybe you can let me know if I'm wrong. It looks like you've done mock-up work and you are linking to the live website to be able to expose whoever's looking at your portfolio to see the full experience live. That can be, I mean, I think that's really good to be able to have a live link where your work is out there and it's providing value to others. And just be able to have people looking at your portfolio that want to navigate through that and just feel the work that you've done and then examine it throughout the entire like flow of navigating that website. I think that's healthy. But I think what's also more healthy and probably more relevant for UX type positions is how did you get here, right? What's the context? What was the problem you were trying to solve? What was your demographic? Who was your audience? Like what really were you trying to resolve? And like coming up with a case study of that, I think is a lot more relevant for UX type work. Whereas a case study is going to look a little bit different for development work. And I think, I don't think you delivered that at all in any of these projects. You just have the GitHub and the visit site. I feel like you have really good projects to showcase and good conversations can come around these projects in your interviews, but I think you're missing that extra context that employers are going to be looking for, employers and clients. So just to sum that up, I think UX, you want to deliver some sort of context of the problem you're even trying to solve, and kind of just going through your, like, documenting your process of how you solved that, and then showcasing the solution of what that finally entailed, what that finally looked at, what you finally solidified with that. So your UX work, I think, needs context or case studies. I think your development work does as well. I think having a GitHub link, I know some projects are probably going to, you probably did some client work or work for a previous company, but so you might not be able to link to a GitHub repository, and I get that. I think having the skills here and being able to distinguish, well, you have React. Interesting, you highlight, where do you highlight that? HTML5 and CSS with Bootstrap. Professional, what projects do you want to see? Learn more. Let me just, okay. Maybe I'm prematurely looking at this. Okay, you don't have like a learn more here. You don't really, you click on this and it just goes directly to the website. I'm guessing it goes, okay, you're at least opening a new tab. Mockup, masseuse, learn more. Okay, so you do have some context. It's extremely little. And I think I talked about some of the context that you might need. But I would definitely look up case studies for kind of a UX-facing portfolio, design and UX-facing. I would definitely look up how to deliver, or how to document case studies to make a really effective portfolio. Professional. Vanilla, it looks like these are kind of just personal projects. Full stack, so does your professional not have full stack projects? Probably does, right? Nope. Okay, React. Interesting, because this looked like a mock-up. Did you even build a website? I don't know. Okay, so I think this is going to leave whoever's looking at this with a lot of questions. So initially, I think you have a lot of pictures and very little content. And you've actually, like, for most portfolios I look at, it's too much text and really not enough delivering the experience. And here, I think it's quite the opposite. So I'm not gonna go into my ignorance with what you're even delivering here, because I think we really touched on that. So what I want to do, I want to focus a little bit more on the layout and kind of just the information you're delivering. So without going into what we already talked about, I think, so you have a sub-navigation up here. You also, it looks like you have a navigation down there, React. Okay, you have, what, professional, React, mockup. You don't have mockup down here. Professional and React. Confused why you didn't put some of those do you feel like this is your most important work? If so, I guess it's not a bad thing. Like, I think it's fine to have a sub navigation like that. I think I'm just starting to dive into the specifics of what each project delivers, and it delivers a lot of different things, a lot of different things. So, okay, let's start with here. I think you have a lot of good I think social media contacts are helpful. Looks like Code Wars, interesting. GitHub, Instagram, LinkedIn. Okay, so I think GitHub and LinkedIn are probably going to be your most relevant. Instagram too. I do find it helpful, especially if you're helping out other developers or just providing value to people in general. If you can provide a positive experience with the social media presence that you built, I think that's a great thing to include. Okay, so let's go to the About page. What the heck does this mean? I think you're just including pictures to include pictures. Work experience, rate path inspections. You don't. So okay, so these are companies or are these projects? Are these clients? What? So when I initially look at this page, what I see is it's basically like a resume, right? With pictures. I think these pictures are irrelevant. I don't know why you've included these. I don't think they provide any context. I think you just did it to make it look pretty. And I don't think that's an effective design. I think the work experience itself, so this is this entire thing is an image, including the text within this image is work experience. I believe that's the case. So it's not really accessible, right? It's not very searchable. And I think that's going to be kind of a yellow flag with how you're delivering this information. So I think a better way to do it, like my experience, this is, can you even highlight this? What is going on? To bring this out, let's just take a look at this. You have it, okay, so you just can't highlight it. Interesting. Something's blocking that. Okay, but it does look like the work experience. So you kind of have a header here, right? My experience. And then you have a subheader here, work experience. And then you have a subheader of that called clients. And I don't see that hierarchy of information being delivered in your HTML syntax. So I think a next step would be kind of just understanding the fundamentals of HTML and how you want to deliver that information. And I think just even understanding this is going to be your header, subheader, subheader of this. So like H1 tag, H2, H3, H3, and those now I think I'm kind of confusing it. It's it should be H3 tags for kind of the subheadings of this subheader. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. It's been a while. Damn. So I need a refresh as well. But I think my point stands where let's make this a header. Let's actually make this searchable, accessible content. And I think providing, so if we were to deliver this on a resume, this is basically kind of just a bloated resume, and I say bloated with images, not content. I think it's lacking content. So talking about like what you did, the problems you solved here, some of the languages you've worked. If you're going to be talking about clients, like having some sort of case study, and I don't know what contract you signed with them, but I think there needs to be a little bit more relevant information about what you were actually solving here. Even just documenting the process that you had with that client, some hurdles you had to overcome, what you've learned, how you've grown. I think that's useful, and you can't fit a lot of that on a resume, but it could even be expandable information if an employer wanted to learn about that, because I think this just links right to the website. It looks like this is being cut off. I think it's... So I can't really see. I'm like really squinting, but I think this is actually overlapping the back. So I think you have an image here. And I think what you meant to do is clip this. So this is basically not going to overlap. This is going to be hidden. Or this part is going to be hidden, and this is going to be hidden. So you could even like maybe to do that with text. Maybe it's more complicated, but I think at least clipping this and lowering the text just a little bit, that's fine if you want to clip it down here, but I'm just trying to make it easier for you. You want to give the impression that it is scrollable, and I think that's what you're trying to do. I think by trying to overcomplicate how you're delivering this information, you've created a bad experience in how you're delivering this information. So if you're gonna stick with this, cut this off. I think like, I mean, this is, this is kind of relevant information. It's giving you giving someone context about your personality, what it's like to work with you, and you're cutting that off and you're making this unreadable. I think by trying to make this creative, I think you've put the user off. So expand on this information. Really think about whether these images are relevant or not. But I think with my experience, you probably want to at least dive into the languages, the stack that you typically work with, or the stacks that you have worked with. That's okay. I think that's relevant. It sounds like you've worked on a lot of projects, and you probably worked with different languages, and that can be a very healthy thing, and that can be a very desirable thing when employers look at this. All right, let's go into the contact. Oh, what just happened? Okay, so I think we just have another instance of this image. You're literally pushing down the most important information for a contact form with an image that's irrelevant. I think what you're doing is you are trying to push more content through design itself instead of actually focusing on the content that's important. So what I might do is get rid of this entire section. It's irrelevant. It's forcing this information down, and it's just creating a frustrating experience for your user. So maybe putting this mobile phone down to here and just putting it on the right or the left of the contact information. And who knows, maybe it just disappears on mobile, right? So like maybe it's on the left, it's on the right. It probably becomes irrelevant when you have a reduced space for content. So I would actually get rid of it on mobile and hide it on mobile. And that's kind of demonstrating your knowledge of media queries. All right, so 3 links. I like that you didn't overwork this portfolio with a lot of irrelevant information. I think you have the opposite problem. You don't have enough information in context. You do have a lot of projects. I love the breadth of your projects and your experience. I think that is really, that's definitely going to go in your favor. I think just how you're delivering your experience, you're talking to multiple audiences with this. So I think, you can kind of review what we talked about, but I think I've really gone into enough on that. So let's take a look at your mobile version. Go iPhone X. We'll be generous. Okay, this text has shrank way too much. There's no way it's that small. Hold on. It might just be a Chrome. Okay, I think your text is way too small. Way too small, very unreadable. These icons, do you know how hard it is to press these icons on mobile? Love this. I think this is neat. I think it looks good. You're highlighting the page that you're on with this. I think, oh, that's a bug. Okay, so what I would expect when you have this navigation now, typically you'll kind of just put a shade over this, and it informs the user that they can click anywhere here to close this navigation. And so what you did was, I think the typical expectation is you'll be able to click outside of the navigation. It closes this back up. So this should not go to a new tab. And even clicking here, I would have expected this to close. So I would put a shade over this. And if you do click the shade, it closes this navigation. I think creating a pattern that's already been really pushed out in a lot of websites, that's going to be healthy at that point, because that's what the typical user expectation is going to be. These buttons are tiny. Again, you need to think about like how big this is going to be on a mobile device. I think it's going to be very easy for fingers to accidentally click one or the other when they meant to click the other. I think how you're separating these is fine. You have a little context here, barbershop. This text is extremely small, and I think it's part of the actual image itself. If it is, you definitely don't want that. You want this entire thing to be an HTML element, encompassing other elements. Toyota site, very small text. Again, like even delivering, like you have buttons here, but you don't have buttons here. That's confusing. Why not? So I would even like this professional. I think it's fine to you don't have tons of links. I think maybe, I don't know. It gets kind of funky and weird when you have sub navigations. You have a lot of, looks like that is no, that's not a bug. That was just a gray area. I honestly would have these expand all the way across. You can provide buttons that'll link to more context or GitHub or the live project itself. That feels like a weird experience. Why are you jumping like this? Why? Why does it jump up? That's weird. I'd fix that. And then it jumps down for... I think that's a bug. I don't think you meant to do that. All right, let's go to About. Okay, you have a lot of separation here. God, this text is so small. Okay, this looks good. So it looks good on mobile. I think you're not cutting off certain... So, man, what's happening? Maybe it's my Chrome tools, or you really blocked highlighting or anything like that. Or maybe it is my Chrome tools. But I feel like because this... you know what? Let's just find out. Yeah, this is HTML. Weird. Either way, I would expect to be able to highlight this information, but it does look like, you know, you do have some CSS to cut the image out completely. I think this is readable. Well, it's not readable because it's too small. I think I wouldn't go lower than 14 font. I think that's kind of a good general behavior that I would not create an exception to the rule for anything that you're delivering on this website. So I think 14 font is the lowest I would go. This feels like it's definitely lower than 14, especially some of the headers. But it just looks small, right? It's hard to read. 10. Ooh. Okay. So we could definitely increase this font at least, bare minimum, to 14. And then contact. Okay, so this is better because you really shrank this. I'm not against this. This works. So that kind of really hones in on the point where you need to have relevant content above the fold. This isn't relevant content. This is just eye candy. That's all this is. And I don't think that's a reason on desktop to push everything down. So I like what you did with it here. I think it looks good. Do I have anything else? Cool. All right, so I think that's about it. I think what I really like is the breadth of your experience. It sounds like, or it looks like you've built a lot of projects. You have a lot of experience to show. I think that's really healthy. I think there's kind of a lot we dove into, a lot of specifics on each page that I would talk about. But I think the overarching message that I'm trying to deliver is your design shouldn't be influenced by making things look good. It should be influenced by really understanding your audience and really understanding the content that you're delivering, and make sure every single page is delivering the content in the most effective way possible, where they're very like if an employer hops onto this or a new client hops onto this, they're able to understand what you've done so far and what value you can bring to them. But I think some of the specifics we dove into can kind of help elaborate on that. But either way, I love your experience. I really appreciate you submitting this. And if you do choose to take action on this feedback, I would love to see what you do with it. But Thanks so much for submitting this, and have